I think we can all agree that the Black Adam movie did not really change the balance of power in the DC universe. In fact, I'd say it changed nothing at all really. It was mostly pretty forgettable, but what was pretty great about it is the superheroes other than Black Adam. And for this list, I want to talk about the suit worn by Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. Something about this is just all kinds of yes. Not only is it actually Dr. Fate in live action, which is amazing, but it just got the character's look so right. The helmet itself is so angular and imposing without losing the vibe of the comic book version. The actual suit itself looks super cool too, with the base layer having the kind of dark runic writing that you might miss at a quick glance. And then coupled with the gold features and the cape, it's beautiful, especially in the sequences where he shows off just what he can do. Aquaman doesn't usually catch a break. He is often looked down on and made fun of in the comic book landscape, and his suit doesn't really do much favors for him either. Now over time, Aquaman has had many different looks, going for beards and long hair and even having various different hands, but I think it's fair to say that as soon as Jason Momoa became Aquaman, something changed. He brought a level of cool and power to his portrayal as the guy who talks to fish that he was instantly a favorite. Now his more muted supersuit in Justice League was to be expected to try and coolify the classic look of Aquaman, but somehow, in 2018's Aquaman, when James Wan injected the franchise with a lot more fun and color, they gave Aquaman his most comic accurate orange and green suit, and it actually worked. This is easily the best Aquaman suit ever made in live action, not that there have been many. It's crazy to me how using the template of what many would consider the goofiest of superhero costumes turned into one of the live action best. While Netflix's Daredevil Season 2 had probably the best version of Daredevil's suit seen in live action, and She-Hulk had that classic yellow and red version of the suit, Daredevil Season 1 absolutely nailed Matt's first homemade suit. Charlie Cox absolutely delivers the best Matt Murdock we have seen, but what he wears for most of the first season and again in Daredevil Season 3 really gives you an idea of who this guy is. While the show's other flashier suits work in their own way, there's a visceral realism to Daredevil's simple black getup. The decision to add Muay Thai ropes around each fist as well is a small detail that kind of elevates the whole thing, providing some much needed visual contrast, but it also makes every single punch feel way more brutal. Yes, I do love the red suit that Matt wears as he gains more experience, but something about that first homemade suit just hits different. One of the things that kinda sucks about how the first run on the DCEU failed is how those incredibly awesome costumes are mostly gone for good now. Those suits didn't change much over the films that came out, but when Wonder Woman moved from Zack Snyder's movies to Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman in 2017, all they changed was the color palette, and yet it was all they needed to change to make it absolutely perfect. The simplistic combination of a red cuirass, blue skirt, golden boots, silver gauntlets, and the tiara of Themyscira just emulates Wonder Woman of the comics perfectly, while also basically proving Diana's physical durability due to the lack of protective armor. And just to top it off, when she wears that black furry coat over top of it, even cooler. I don't know how it's possible that when I was looking up supersuits that everyone loves, no one has said a word about the Moon Knight suit worn by Oscar Isaac. This suit was absolutely amazing. The bandage design making Moon Knight look a little bit like a mummy actually works really well. It's got some actual hieroglyphs on it too, which read, "Rise and live again as my fist of vengeance, my Moon Knight." That's so cool. I love it, but I think it's really when the Mr. Knight suit shows up that the whole thing just goes to another level. Mr. Knight in the comics is already an incredibly great looking costume, and that transfers easily over to the screen. Sure, it's basically just a white suit with a white mask, but when you take a closer look, the details on each garment just adds a whole lot more to the whole thing. For me, it was a perfect balance between taking the look of the comics and adapting it to the screen with just enough detail to set it apart. Now, coming into the next point, you had to know that a Batman suit would make it onto this list somewhere. There have been 10 different actors who have played the Dark Knight since 1943, from TV shows to trilogies and movie franchises. While the movies that displayed the older, grittier Batman played by Ben Affleck may not have been the greatest, that Batman suit, looking its best in Batman vs Superman, is arguably one of the most comic accurate bat suits ever. This suit took its inspiration from The Dark Knight Returns, where Batman is thick. Not only that, but he's classically unarmored, and there is a simplicity to the costume that makes it just stand out. When Ben put on that suit in BVS, he was certainly very thick, as was his Batman logo. He had the short, stubby ears, and the costume seemed to also lack any kind of padding, but I think the suit elevated its source material in its details. While The Dark Knight Returns looks like he was just wearing a gray bodysuit, whatever Batfleck is wearing is the coolest material I have ever seen in my entire life. So cool. Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man is an icon. The guy basically carried the start of the MCU. While he's had tons of revisions to his Iron Man armor, it may just be the character's Mark III armor from the first Iron Man movie that is his best. This is the final gold and red suit used by the end of 2008's Iron Man. Combining the design of the Iron Man Mark II armor with the Mark I's firepower and hitting it all with a lick of red and gold paint, the Mark III suit was a true powerhouse that did it all with absolute style. But then we also have to take into account the practical build of the suit that was used a lot during the filming, which just brings it to life in a way that future CGI suits can't really match. For a lot of people, this suit, and maybe the Mark VII from Avengers, are the best of the Iron Man suits. This was before Tony began using the liquid metal suits, which, while cool and sleek, and obviously technologically advanced, had the downside of just being too impossibly comic booky. Now, if we are talking superhero costumes, actually, if we are talking superhero movies in general, then I think we need to recognize that Deadpool is actually one of the best. Ryan Reynolds is so perfect as Deadpool that when I'm reading the comics, his voice is the one I can hear in my mind now. But it's not only his voice and personality that makes the Deadpool movies so good, nor is it only the comedy, the characters that show up, the real world feel, or the grittiness of the whole thing. What elevates it all is that Deadpool's costume is basically real. A lot of superhero costumes in film rely on CGI. What makes Reynolds' Deadpool suit so fantastic then is that it is entirely practical while still maintaining one of the coolest looks to the comics of any supersuit in history. This combination of practicality and comic accuracy alone is enough to have the Deadpool suit on this list, but then we gotta recognize that the suit has influenced other suits. The moving mouth as Wade talks and the expressive white eyes have been applied to characters like Spider-Man since the movies come out. Now look, it was really hard to not talk about Henry Cavill's Superman suit, which was supposed to evoke a kind of Kryptonian armor base layer, and it looked really incredibly cool. Of all the Superman costumes though, it just may be the simple suit worn by Christopher Reeve that would be described as perfect. While other suits may win out in modern design, none have ever come close to emulating Superman's true character like this suit. The Superman suit from 1978's Superman makes this list because of how well it fits the heroic, positive, purely good-hearted superhero Christopher Reeve portrayed. On top of that, the actual comic accuracy of the suit means that, despite the fact that there have been multiple Supermans since the film came out with different takes, the majority of audiences still think of the bright blues, yellows, and reds of the 1978 film when you say the name Superman. And lastly today, while there have been many Supermans and Batmans, there have only been 3 big screen Spider-Men, and picking a suit to call the best one is seemingly an impossible task, but I'm gonna do it. Tom Holland's many suits from the MCU are really cool, and I'm especially excited to see the suit from the end of No Way Home, which looked to be the most classic suit of the bunch. Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man suit was unique and very sleek, while his suit in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the absolute best Spider-Man suit, no contest, to a lot of people, thanks to its bright colors, big white eyes, and the fact that Andrew is basically built perfectly to play the hero. But, in my opinion, the original red and blue Tobey Maguire Spider-Man suit is bluntly one of the best in history. Raimi's twist on the classic costume was perfect. The aspect of Maguire's original suit that really helped it stand above the crowd is the silver webbing texture that's woven throughout the suit, which was then taken by the Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit later. The webbing added this kind of tactile kind of realism to the suit and offset perfectly against the deep red and dark blue of the Spider-Man's colors. Topped off by the frankly badass Spider-Man symbol on the front and back, and this suit, it's perfection.
Number 10, Lady Deathstrike. I'm often torn when it comes to a character like Lady Deathstrike. When it comes to her initial appearance and costume as a villain, it was an iconic and terrifying look for the character, but over the years, I believe we've done right by her to update her look and make her look more refined, but also still terrifying. In fact, the fact that she doesn't always wear the horror of her appearance on her sleeve, broadcasting it for the whole world to see, almost makes her more frightening to me at times. Of course, even without that first iconic look, she still sometimes does like to dress up spooky scary, but I like that now her design usually gives us some more depth when it comes to what kind of villain and character Yuriko Oyama is. Honestly, I also really loved her design in the Messiah complex. Terrifying, intimidating, but less cartoonish I suppose than her original design. Number 9. King Shark. King Shark is a shark, and has always been a shark, but hasn't always been a great white shark. He's actually had quite a few different looks over the years, although I cannot deny his recent redesign that we got in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, and which kind of carried over somewhat to his own Suicide Squad spin-off comic series, is probably one of the best ones we've seen in a while. King Shark here is more a humanoid great white, a beast of a landfish who walks around on 2 feet, but is still tough enough to fall more than 20 stories and still get back up somehow. There is also a sweetness and innocence to this cannibalistic creature that we know as Nanaue that comes across both in his character redesign and costume redesign, with how casually he is often dressed. And friends, before we move on to this next point, be sure to go check us out on Facebook if you aren't already. We just relaunched everything over there. It looks super cool, so make sure if you're on Facebook you are following us. Do it now. I'll wait. Number 8. Poison Ivy. My feelings on Ivy are similar to my feelings on Harley when it comes to her costume design. Although I think when it comes to her overall redesign and growth as a character, I actually feel like her changes have been even more significant in comparison to Harley's, possibly just because she's been around, quite a bit longer. Poison Ivy made her first appearance in Batman issue 181 back in the 60s. The look she sported back then has always kind of reminded me of Peter Pan, a sexy lady version of Peter Pan, but Peter Pan nonetheless. I think it's the tights and the shoes, honestly, and the green, or I don't know, maybe the Jolly Green Giant mascot. Yeah, she also kind of has that look going on, minus the green skin. However, now Ivy generally is depicted with having green skin, but fortunately her outfit has evolved and changed with the times, so she's not like full-on Jolly Green Giant. From her going to what she wore originally, to wearing underwear and an open button-up shirt in the Arkham Batman games, to a full dark green bodysuit in modern comics, to something that pays a little more homage to her original plant-covered look with her Queen Ivy redesign. I gotta say actually, that Queen Ivy redesign initially I was like, I don't know about that. And it came around on me. I quite like it now. Number 7. Juggernaut. While Juggernaut still wears his Sidorak armor, even he has seen some major improvements when it comes to his look over the years. And not just in the costume department either. We've also seen this character change a ton as a person, to the point that now he's a lot more anti-hero than villain even. Possibly even bordering on full-on hero, I'd say. Juggernaut no longer actually wears armor given to him by Sidorak because he renounced the god, and instead used materials that Sidorak had left from the times he basically reached out to Earth to forge his own armor. The result is a much more sleek looking design as opposed to the more clunky and stiff looking armor that he wore when he made his first appearance back in X-Men issue number 12. And that look is still iconic, don't get me wrong, and it's quite similar to the overall character design, but a few important tweaks over time have greatly improved Juggernaut's overall look today. Juggy baby is looking good. Like that new armor. Number 6. Captain Boomerang. Boomerang. Oh boy, what a long way this character has come. In fact, the main Boomerang that we have come to know in the comics isn't even the same person anymore. Is it still Owen Mercer now? Owen Mercer is the son of the original Boomerang, and even when Captain Boomerang was the OG, George Harkness, he had quite a different look. Captain Boomerang made his first appearance in issue 117 of the original Flash series, where he sported a boomerang patterned outfit, white scarf and white sash. Also his little hat. This look was something. Honestly, it reminds me of like a flight attendant. And I kind of would like to see it come back, even though it's quite a bit more flamboyant than what Harkness wore in later years, and definitely a lot less intimidating. Still, it's pretty fun. Obviously I'm saying it got better as time went on, but I still like this look. Harkness would later become more synonymous with a more street-inspired look, wearing a trench coat and often covered in boomerangs, but not as a pattern, more as like armament instead, so that, he could throw a boomerang and then throw another one. Boomerangs all over the place. Boomerang patterns and blue outfits with little hats. I need to do a cosplay of that original look. Number 5. Trapster. Trapster was once known by the unfortunate name of Paste Pot Pete. Well, he's still not an A-list villain. Trapster's look and name are at least a lot better than what he was originally working with. He was once a villain who simply was obsessed with a glue gun, sticking people in place and sometimes clumsily getting trapped in his own glue. Fortunately, from there the character was expanded upon and changed his name, sick of being ridiculed, making his whole thing more about creating traps than just, trapping people in glue. I think overall a good decision from Trapster's point of view. Unfortunately, many heroes still tease him from time to time as they still remember the days when he was known as Paste Pot Pete. Yeesh, they will not let him forget. Number 4. Despero. Despero used to have a weird gill side hawk and an orange jumpsuit, but now he's got like a gill mohawk and looks like a badass. For those of you unfamiliar, Despero is actually one of the oldest enemies of the Justice League of America. He made his first appearance in Justice League of America issue number 1 from 1960. In other words, he's pretty old school. Not only has his look completely changed, but his whole deal is pretty much changed as well. When we first met Despero, he was a villain who was all about mind control and playing lots of chess, not known for his physical prowess. Over time, the depiction of this Kalinorian alien villain changed and he became more known for his strength than his fondness of chess and his mind games. Although the modern character of the version from Earth Prime has both super strength and psionic powers. So too did his appearance change, with him trading in that jumpsuit for a cape and, some prominent abs. Cause that's what makes you look scary, I guess. Gotta have the abs, gotta be real jacked. I do like though when he was like, I will play chess with you, ha ha ha, I'm a villain. We need more chess-based villains. Someone make that, please. Number 3. Magneto. Magneto was such a rectangle head back in the day. Don't tell him I said that though, please. I don't want him to come for me. But seriously, when it comes to Magneto's overall look, he's come a long way from just being a pair of piercing blue eyes peering out of a very boxy helmet. His look has always been iconic, that I definitely cannot deny. But over the years it's become a lot more refined and complex along with the character. When Magneto first appeared on the scene, he was kind of more of a two-dimensional evil mutant hell-bent on ruling over the humans and planet Earth, having mutants take their rightful place as the dominant species, Homo superior as they were known. Over time, his struggle became more nuanced as we learned more about his own backstory, which was quite tragic, and how he was mistreated, and it made a lot more sense that Magneto would want to fight for mutants who he felt had been marginalized, as he had been himself many times over through the course of his life. With this depth, his look also gained a lot of depth, and today, no matter which outfit he has on, he generally looks stylish, gentlemanly, and, well, all-powerful. As well he should. That upgrade? That's a 10. Number 2. Ultron. Ultron has come a long way since his first appearance, disguised as the Crimson Cowl in issue 54 of the Avengers, and then introduced fully as the menace known as Ultron 5 in issue 55. Even then, he'd already apparently come a long way from his first model, his first design, which was revealed in a flashback in issue 58 of the Avengers, where this crude yet workable robot calls inventor Hank Pym his daddy. That was quite a crude looking version of Ultron. Since then, Ultron has become more and more menacing in his appearance as time has gone on, with one of the most terrifying redesigns of the character appearing, for me at least, in the alternate reality from Marvel's What If Disney Plus series, where he actually succeeded in taking over Vision's form. The more humanoid Ultron looks to me, which is basically what also has happened over time with his design, with him even at one point fully merging with his father, Hank Pym, in the comics, the more terrifying I find his appearance to be. And what is really the point of a redesign for a villain if not to make them more menacing, horrifying, and intimidating to readers and the heroes they come up against? I mean, you're either going for more scary, I think, or more depth. Or ideally more depth and more scary. That's the best. Number 1. General Zod. General Zod has received a major upgrade when it comes to his look over the years. Oh my goodness. And this improvement has made him a lot more intimidating when it comes to his overall appearance in the comics. When General Zod first made his appearance in Action Comics in issue 283, we really only saw him in a flashback panel where it was revealed he was condemned to spend 40 years trapped in the Phantom Zone. Oh no! He appears as just a guy in a green uniform, not particularly muscular, wearing little booty shorts? Possibly no pants? It's hard for me to tell if his pants or tights are just the color of his skin or if they are non-existent, as I'm really only looking at, like scans of this. So he's either just running around in green short shorts and matching knee-high boots, or he's got tan pants on. I'm not sure which. But either way, he's got his underwears over his pants or just no pants. Now, General Zod is less associated with the colors of tan and green and is more affiliated with the colors of black and red, often donning armor in those colors and sporting menacing yet cleanly shaped facial hair, really evoking those kneel before Zod vibes in the present. I mean, I can't even believe it's Zod when you go back and look at that original appearance. Woo! Looks so silly.
At number 10, we've got Aquaman. Looking specifically at the redesigns that occurred between the Super Friends era and the 90s look. There's no arguing that the Super Friends look is pretty corny. Some would say that any redesign would have made it better, but what went into making Aquaman go from looking like this to looking like this was a decision that not only changed the way we saw Aquaman, but how we knew him as well. Firstly, the original look has him extremely clean looking, like he's been untouched by any battle, which we all know isn't true. And maybe that's just how superheroes were illustrated back then. But the 90s look has him with a harpoon for a hand, no shirt, and this sweet metal chest piece that just makes him look like he's really from the depths of the ocean. His trident also has a major redesign here that gives a more menacing look, like it's really designed to do real damage. And maybe it's not quite part of the costume, but the long hair and beard just seem like the right choice for Aquaman that should have been a thing from day one maybe. But maybe that's just me.
Number 9, the Hulk. Now, this isn't exactly a redesign, and I'll give you that. It's more like a mistake. It's a mistake that led to one of the most iconic characters for Marvel. When the Incredible Hulk first appeared in Marvel Comics, his skin was actually a gray color to keep him indistinguishable from any real-world race, as Stan Lee wanted. But an issue with the colorist's ink actually led to the character coming out looking green, which, I mean, you still get the desired effect. Stan actually ended up liking the green more, and they stuck with it. Good call, Stan the man. We miss you. Narratively, they even gave a reason for this. At first saying it was prolonged gamma exposure, and later saying that Grey Hulk was an alternate personality version of the Hulk.
At number 8, we have Wolverine. Wolverine's costume has had many changes over the years, but the change from the original yellow look is a significant design choice in the right direction. The thing is, Wolverine looks pretty cool in the original X-Men uniform, but something about this darker look feels like it complements his personality more. The red eyes and the black-gray tones in this outfit are so cool and much more menacing than the classic yellow tiger stripe design, which reflects what X-Force stands for as well. X-Force is a mutant organization put together by Wolverine himself, which applies lethal force if the mission calls for it. It makes sense that Wolverine would be behind something like this because of his inherent Machiavellian outlook on life. This character has lived for so long and through so much that his jadedness has become a staple to who he is. And this redesign just strikes me as being a more accurate portrayal of who Logan is behind the costume.
Number 7, Drax the Destroyer. Thanks to the MCU, it's really hard to think of Drax the Destroyer in any other way. But the MCU's depiction actually borrows from the redesign of Drax from 2004. For this though, Drax here was, well, he had a cape. Capes are cool, no doubt, but I mean, he's just so much better now. Take a look at his design when he was first introduced in the 1970s. Bright green skin with a very comic booky purple costume. It was unique, I'll give you that, but as the rival to the Mad Titan Thanos, it's just nowhere near as imposing and intimidating as it should be. The 2004 design with the pale green skin, red tattoos, and knives evoke the kind of strength and power that comes from the title of the Destroyer.
At number 6, we have The Flash. Looking at the Jay Garrick Golden Age Flash, we can all agree that there was room for improvement. Need I mention the elephant in the room? The silly hat? Okay, I know it has sentimental value, having been his father's World War I helmet, but it just doesn't look very cool. I'm sorry. And he would use it as a weapon by throwing it at bad guys? Anyway, I'm just roasting him now. But when Barry Allen is introduced in 1956 with a new outfit, it seems like it was always meant to be that way. His helmet is replaced with a mask, and the little lightning bolts stick around, which we're happy to see. This costume then basically remains untouched until today, having undergone a few redesigns that didn't really stick, like Kid Flash, which, I don't know. It doesn't do it for me. And the John Fox look, which once again, I don't know if it's the right decision for the character. I think the best place the design has found itself is Wally West's costume, which just gives the character a sleek look with lots of integrity.
Number 5. Lobo. Okay, before you jump on me in the comments saying he's a villain, he's more of an anti-hero, okay? When Lobo first appeared in DC Comics, he looked like poo. You were more likely to laugh than to think he had any kind of strength going for him. He had an orange and light purple skin-tight suit for Pete's sake. But when he reappeared with his biker motif, it just made sense. Ripped jeans, leather gloves and a vest. With all his craziness, foul language, weapons, and spiked hair, he needed the rest of him to match. And I think we can all agree his iconic hook was definitely a worthwhile addition. Let's just forget about his newest New 52 redesign though.
No. At number 4, we have Iron Man. This is one of the biggest redesigns on the list, and for good reason. The old Iron Man is made to look like he's literally wearing a big suit of armor that Tony Stark would crudely bolt himself into. But over time, with the way that the character's abilities become more advanced, so does the costume. It gets sleeker, more form-fitting, and the colors are toned down a bit, making for a more realistic look, tonally. Something I noticed that's a real eyesore from the original look is the design of the face. The original eye holes and mouth make Iron Man look kind of soulless, like there isn't even a person in the costume. And sometimes that was actually the case, but as Tony Stark's storyline is refined, it seems as though his costume gets less and less blocky as well. And this wasn't only the case for Iron Man, it was arguably the case for every other hero in this list and beyond. With comic books getting more legitimized over time, the depth of all the characters expanded, allowing for cooler, less fantastical designs that you might actually be able to imagine seeing in the real world.
Number 3. Spider-Man. This is an arguable point. Spider-Man's red and blue classic suit is extremely iconic, and I don't think anyone thinks it's bad. The Sam Raimi version of that suit is beautiful. But if you tell me that you dislike the Black Venom symbiote or the black cloth version of this suit, 1, you're a liar, and 2, we can't be friends. This suit was actually designed by a guy called Randy Schueller for a contest Marvel had, and they paid him $220 for it. I'm not sure how that compares to today, inflation-wise, but that $220 bought the Spider-Man's greatest designs outside the original. So great, they even came up with excuses for him to wear it after getting rid of the symbiote version of it.
Okay, at number 2 we have the Batman costume designs from the movies. This is a big one that I think a lot of people agree with. Looking at his original look from the 1966 Batman TV show and the redesigns that took place to get to Christopher Nolan's designs for The Dark Knight, it's clear to anyone that these were major steps in the right direction. Although the original look was probably meant to be a bit goofy, it still could have looked a little less like pajamas and still gotten the feeling across. This is an important transformation to analyze because Batman's original outfit speaks to how seriously comic books were being taken back in the 60s, and that was not very seriously. Honestly, Adam West looks like he pulled a $10 Batman costume off the secondhand shelf at a Halloween store in November. I mean, it barely looks like the cowl fit him. And then when we were blessed with the Dark Knight trilogy back in 2005, we were reminded that these days, Batman is a serious character that deserves a serious look. His suit got darker, more slick, and it finally looked like real armor, which makes sense for the subject matter, which has, over the years, gotten much more gruesome and violent. This was an essential redesign that demonstrates not only how far Batman has come as a character, but how far comic books have come as well. And the massive success of the Nolan trilogy suggests that people were ready for that change.
Number 1. Carol Danvers. The original Carol Danvers Miss Marvel costume is so incredibly different from her redesign as Captain Marvel that you'd be forgiven for thinking they were different people at first. Her Miss Marvel costume was characterized by a black leotard with a big yellow lightning bolt, bare legs, and black boots and gloves. While being an iconic costume, knowing what we know of her backstory and looking at the tone and personality of her character, it didn't seem right for Carol Danvers. When she jumped on the scene with her red and blue pilot-esque Captain Marvel uniform with the shorter hair and the star emblem, she exudes the confidence and strength that her character demands. She even still kept the red sash belt thing, which was probably my favorite part of her costume. This is the suit that inspired her MCU costume with not a single trace or mention of her Miss Marvel suit. It is also the suit that almost everyone has gotten to know her by and has completely revamped and reimagined her character.
Number 10. Loki. Loki has shifted so much in comics. He's technically a different character from that original Loki that first appeared in Venus issue number 6 and again in Journey into Mystery issue number 85. Loki's look originally was pretty silly, especially if we're talking about trying to adapt that look to the big screen and make it look menacing. We do get a version of that sort of original costume in the Loki series when we see an older, bitter, and sadder Loki who actually more reflects that original costume and that original Loki. Loki now appears to look much cooler in the comics and is also much more versatile when it comes to their style. This has also translated to the big screen where Tom Hiddleston's Loki has also gotten more and more dapper and stylish as time has gone on as well. At least that's how I see it. Number 9. Harley Quinn. I know people love the original costume, so this might be like kind of a hot take, but I personally think Harley has had so many amazing costumes and looks over the years that have just improved on what was already, well, good. I'm not saying the original costume was bad, to be clear. So yeah, I'm not saying the original costume that she had was at the level of some of the other ones on our list, Loki, being too much, or too ridiculous, but I am saying that I think her design has only really improved with time. It's a compliment, Harley. Take it. Of course, not all of her looks have been winners in comparison to that original look, but I do think that her current outfit has definitely been one of her best that we've seen so far. And then of course there is her whole Birds of Prey looks, which I loved, and her The Suicide Squad DCEU look, which seems to have been inspired by more modern Harley Quinn comics and video game designs. And to be clear, we're talking about James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, not Suicide Squad. Not David Ayer's Suicide Squad. Those are two very different looks, are they not? And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to hear about some more cool supervillain redesigns that we love, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8. The Joker. The Joker is another character who has come a long way when it comes to his different looks. While his iconic face paint has remained, he's had many different outfits over the years, and many different iconic pieces that we would identify as being part of his costume. Purple and green remain the Joker's colors, but instead of wearing a suit with like a ribbon looking tie that kind of reminds me of something like a child would wear, like a kid in the olden days, or some kind of like floppy bolo tie. He is typically seen more in a trench coat that happens to be purple. Also, if anyone knows what that tie is called, it's like a little bow, but it's like a string. Let me know in the comments. I don't know what that's called. I do not know. The Joker looks less ridiculous and more menacing in modern comics, with the pranks of his earlier days also getting twisted along with his appearance. In more modern comic book tales, Joker has also been particularly terrifying, at one point having removed his face and stapled it back on in Death of the Family in 2011, and at another point sporting his own intimidating Joker-inspired batsuit during Joker War in 2020. Both of these are great looks, but very different looks. Number 7. Toad. Toad has also had a lot of different looks throughout the years, with his original one being the most ridiculous. And also fitting, but also so ridiculous. But I'd say the real cool thing about Toad is that a lot of the time his outfits actually really reflect how he's feeling inside and his evolution as a character. This is why at first it's really no surprise that Toad basically is dressed up as a court jester in his first appearances. At that time that was basically what he was, acting as Magneto's often disappointing goon who wanted nothing more than to please his master, but usually kind of failed at doing so. Toad? As time went on, Toad would come to realize that he didn't actually need to settle for Magneto's mistreatment of him, and that he was no longer really indebted to Magneto. In various depictions of the character, he'd become somewhat more independent, and sometimes a lot more Toad-like in terms of his design. Fox X-Men movies, I'm looking at you. And in terms of his roles, he also even went from being a villain at Magneto's side in the comics to kind of a weird ally of the X-Men when he became the school janitor in Wolverine and the X-Men. Remember when that happened? He also at one point got a flaming tongue. So he's changed a lot. I don't know if I'm as here for the weird green flaming tongue, but I definitely feel like his look is a lot better now than it was before. Also like that he's kind of like a hacker now. I think that's cool. Number 6. The Riddler. The Riddler originally looked Jim Carrey levels of Riddler ridiculous when he first appeared in Detective Comics issue 140. And that's not a slight to Jim Carrey, by the way. I still love that version of the Riddler. Just also a side note, when I call things ridiculous or weird, it's not necessarily an insult coming from me. And while I do have respect for the Riddler's original question mark suit, I don't think it's necessary for him to be covered in question marks so that we know he's the Riddler. He likes riddles. We get it. Riddler has had a ton of redesigns since that first appearance, with a good number of his modern takes being much improved on in comparison. Okay, so not all of the modern takes on the Riddler have been great. See Riddler with his hair shaved into a question mark shaped green mohawk. That was a weird time, but overall I think we can say we've seen a marked improvement. I also do love the recent redesign with Paul Dano playing the Riddler in the Batman film. I feel like this design for the character was definitely one of the most terrifying looks for him yet, and also fit really well with his origin and his backstory, and just with the overall tone of that film, which takes inspiration from the comics but very much grounds the character of the Riddler in reality, giving him more power as well in the process. I think. Like when you make it just not about like silly riddles and you make it about like what is the Riddler and why are there riddles and what is this really about? I mean, it's a powerful character. Number 5, Cheetah. I mean, the Cheetah outfit has changed a lot since her first appearance, and so has the character. The first Cheetah villain we were ever introduced to in the pages of 1943's Wonder Woman issue number 6 is no longer the Cheetah we have in comics. Literally. Much has changed about the character, including her identity, her origin, and her overall look and power set. The original Cheetah was Priscilla Rich, a jealous debutante who dressed up in a skin-tight cheetah onesie. It's a look, I gotta say. Now we have Barbara Minerva as the main cheetah, who instead of dressing up actually has a humanoid cheetah form, having been transformed basically by a god. Very different looks and takes on this character, but I'd definitely say that Minerva's is better overall. Sorry Priscilla, it's just cooler. Like, I mean, then you get to actually kind of fight like a cheetah lady, as opposed to just a lady in a cheetah costume. Number 4, Crime Syndicate. The Crime Syndicate have always been cool, but over the years their looks have gotten a lot more detailed, badass, and in some cases, a lot hotter. I'm here for the sexy Crime Syndicate, I must say. I'm feeling it. The Crime Syndicate are actually one of the earliest villain teams to take on the Justice League, making their first appearance in 1964 in Justice League of America issue number 29. At least the earlier continuity version of that team, that is. Because this is DC we're talking about here, so you know, now we're on Prime Earth and that was before that, but anyways. Back then their outfits were less sleek and more blocky, such was the time. They were also a lot less sexy back then overall as a team, and had a lot less independent flair, with their looks being just a little bit more rough and basically similar adaptations of the team members that they were mirroring. I mean, Owlman literally has Batman's look from like the neck down almost exactly, with only the Stark owl on his head setting him apart. It's a look. Number 3, Kang the Conqueror. Okay, so Kang still looks pretty crazy, even in the comics, but he's come a long way from that wild purple and green eyesore when it comes to his cinematic appearance at least. We saw our first, likely of many, Kangs in the Disney Plus streaming series Loki. Here Kang was played by the amazing Jonathan Majors, and instead of sporting his very blue face and purple helmet, he was dressed simply in a nice purple robe with green tunic, pants, and sandals underneath. A nice nod to the original design while still providing its own unique take on his look, and a take that is quite a bit more sensible and stylish. Still, an air of flamboyance in how he's dressed, but not so over the top that it undermines how intense, inevitable, and intimidating He Who Remains, aka an alternate Kang, appears to be here. Number 2, Lex Luthor. Lex looks a lot cooler and a lot more dapper in modern comics than his original appearance. Remember when he used to wear a purple suit with green pants? What is it with villains in purple and green? Especially over at DC. What's going on over there? It's kind of a very shocking combo of colors, especially for someone like Lex. Although I will admit, put it into a mech type suit, gloss it up a bit, and it works a little better for me. I do like it. Lex used to wear this purple suit with straps crossed over it, and a very Dracula-esque high collar with bright green pants and purple boots. Fortunately, he now more keeps to suit and tie looks, looking a lot more polished and refined, and occasionally mixes in some badass mechanical armor, which makes him look a lot more intimidating than that collar ever did. Number 1. Killmonger. Talk about villains who have seen an upgrade. In Jungle Action issue number 6, we got our first look at Killmonger. I don't even think you'd recognize him today if your main experience with this character came from the Marvel Cinematic Universe film Black Panther and Michael B. Jordan's portrayal of him. The original look for Killmonger involved a lot of spikes, as opposed to a lot of horrifying scars. He didn't initially mark himself for his kills, instead, he was just really pointy. He also wore white pants and a red sash, with no shirt initially. We've come a long way since then, with Killmonger having even been to space and back, where he ruled over the Wakandan space empire. And thankfully his look has changed quite a lot since then. I'm partial to his symbiote look personally, still a little spiky, but you know, it doesn't overdo it. Nothing wrong with a little bit of spikes, you just don't want to have too many.
At number 10, we have Green Lantern's Power Ring upgrade that allows the rings to communicate with the other Green Lanterns in the universe. This feature, added by the Guardians of the Universe, is a huge upgrade that gives the ring a major advantage. Although there has always been an emergency beacon offered as part of the ring's powers, this is only meant to be used to relay to other Green Lanterns in times of distress. The homing beacon is a fantastic way to bring all the powers of the Green Lanterns together at any time, giving them that extra support whenever it's needed. Or even aside from combat situations, this is a great power to allow Green Lanterns to communicate with one another about strategy to better prepare themselves in the planning stages. Considering there are plenty of Green Lanterns throughout the universe, it would otherwise be extremely difficult to ensure that everyone is where they need to be at any given moment. Pretty nifty, and an underrated ability if you ask me. At number 9, we have Sam Wilson's Captain America suit. This is a huge upgrade for this suit, giving it vibranium wings, Gatling guns, and a nice little clip for the shield right on his back. While Captain America's suit usually doesn't change very drastically over the years, it's pretty obvious that it's due to the fact that Cap is strong enough that he doesn't need to rely on his suit to help him. He's usually more of a leader, with his most valuable assets being his military strategy and brute strength. But when he hands off the moniker to Falcon, the classic suit and shield get a huge upgrade. And not because Falcon needs the support of his suit, but because why not? I mean, Falcon has to have wings, so already a Captain America suit with wings is enough. But throwing those guns on it really brings the suit to a new level. And he still gets to keep the shield. I think immortal retired Steve Rogers will sleep soundly at night knowing Sam is on the job with this upgraded suit. At number 8, we have Captain Marvel's Nega Bands. Although you may know Marvel's suit as already having the Nega Bands as part of the package, this wasn't always the case. Before he acquires them, he is still extremely powerful from being empowered by a cosmic entity named Zoe, later properly realized as Eon. He's able to fly faster than light speed, has superhuman strength, and is also able to teleport anywhere in the universe instantly. So it's hard to imagine how a suit upgrade would offer any sort of improvement, but it does. When the Nega Bands are added to the equation, Marvel is then able to travel between reality and the negative zone whenever he wants. But that's not all, at all. He can also absorb any energy that is coming at him, be it a powerful blast from an enemy or even the energy of the sun. They are also capable of providing healing powers and increased strength. They even keep the wearer from requiring food, air, water, and sleep, which is pretty helpful. They do have their limitations though. They don't protect from drowning or gas-based attacks, and this actually leads to Captain Marvel's demise when he's inflicted with a poison gas by Nitro that actually gives him terminal cancer. But anyway, let's not get too dark here. These Nega Bands are a huge upgrade for Marvel, and that's all that matters in terms of this suit. At number 7 is the Superman Godfall suit upgrade. Now, considering Superman's unmatched strength, he doesn't really have much use for upgrades in that regard, but this suit upgrade is all about the looks and the motorcycle. In the Superman Godfall storyline, Superman has lost his memory and is living in what appears to be a dystopian city called Kandor, alongside his wife Lila. It's a state we aren't used to seeing Superman in. He's got a job, working at a kitchen, and appears to be living a pretty human life, without even his secret identity needing to be hidden. And his costume is just It's so cool and Blade Runner-esque with a Tron-style motorcycle to boot. I mean, who doesn't want to see Superman having access to a motorcycle when he's facing off against dystopian villains? It's just a great reimagining of the character and the suit he wears, and I think it's a fair addition to this list. Upgrades don't always have to be based on abilities and features, you know. Looks matter too. Okay, at number 6, I'm putting Blade's silver armor from Blade Vampire Hunter from 1999. Taking a break from the usual mysterious green or black trench coat, this suit offers a whole new image for Blade. Now, I don't know if I'd say this is his best look ever, but I will say that it's a big upgrade in terms of utility. Having armor seems like a pretty obvious call for a vampire hunter from the get-go, so when I found the silver armor, I knew it had to make an appearance on the list. And the main reason why this suit ranks higher on the list is that silver is known to be a weakness for vampires, which are naturally a threat to a vampire hunter. This suggests that aside from the defense upgrade, this suit also gives Brooks a huge added advantage against his typical foes, on top of the obvious protective advantage. Even though it only sticks around for 2 years, this is a good upgrade for the character that offers much more protection than his typical garb. With a silver chestplate and silver gauntlets, this costume just gives Eric Brooks a more reasonable level of protection and sort of fits him into the category of superhero a bit more. At least in the traditional sense of how he looks. I still think it was the right move to bring him back to his original black leather jacket after this suit ran its course, but it is a good moment for Blade's armor in the grand scheme of things. At number 5, we've got a controversial one, Wolverine's heated claws. Although this upgrade is known to be slightly silly and short-lasting, I think it's probably one of the best straight-up upgrades on this list. It's not an attachment or an aesthetic update, but a good old-fashioned upgrade of the pre-existing power, and it's Wolverine's primary weapon of choice, so getting to keep using the same old equipment except now it can heat up to extreme temperatures, that's pretty good. And what makes it even cooler is how the heated claws are formed. When Wolverine is resurrected from death, the excess energy left over from his body's healing process goes into his claws and brings the adamantium to extreme temperatures. Now remember, these claws are made of one of the most durable metals in the universe, so even though heated metal tends to soften, you shouldn't expect his adamantium claws to do the same. These things are driving right into any and every enemy like a hot knife through soft butter. Ew, that's a weird visual. But it's true, and not to mention, this dude just came back from the dead, so you can expect him to be pretty angry and ready to take it out on anyone in his way. Okay, at number 4 is the Iron Spider suit. Now, this is such a huge upgrade that the word upgrade doesn't even do it justice. Now, if you've seen my list of the top 10 Spider-Man suits, you know that the hero has had many different suits and they are all useful in their own right. But this one is probably the most drastic change that the suit endures in the right direction. Designed by Tony Stark himself, this upgrade changes literally every aspect of the suit for the better. It gets these 4 spider legs with grips and cameras on the ends of them, allowing the wearer to use them to climb walls hands-free as well as use the cameras to see around corners. He's also got the same internal HUD system as Iron Man's suit, giving him heightened senses using the computer's intel, not to mention the sophisticated mask system that offers full filtration to keep him from facing a similar fate to Captain Marvel. And a gliding system, giving him more hang time between web swings. It's a huge upgrade to the suit that totally changes the game for Spider-Man and offers him a whole new set of capabilities with which to defend himself and to best all the bad guys. At number 3, we've got Iron Man's Hulkbuster suit, which is an insanely powerful upgrade to the typical Iron Man suit, as you can probably already tell by the name. Now, just like Spidey, Iron Man has seen tons of different iterations of his suit, but in this case, this upgrade has a very specific function: to bust the Hulk. To fight the Hulk, yes. The goal is to get the suit to a point where it's ready to take on the Hulk. Otherwise known as Iron Man's Mark 44 armor, this upgrade gives Tony Stark all the tools he needs to take down a bad guy bigger than those he's used to. This thing has a missile launcher, a grappling hook, and something called automatic prehensile propulsion technology, which is basically a function that allows the armor to assemble on its own when it's called upon. And considering the Hulk's impulsive reputation, this feature would probably come in handy if the Hulk suddenly decided he wasn't on Tony's side anymore. On top of all this, he's got the built-in rams, which are used to add that extra oomph to Iron Man's punches. And if he decides that brute force is no use against the Green Giant, he's also got sleeping gas built into this thing. Although it's not super useful in the movies, this feature will definitely find its benefit at some point down the line if applied properly. At number 2 are Spider-Man's web shooters. I know this is the second Spider-Man upgrade on this list, but it's just a classic upgrade that must be mentioned. I mean, I would even argue that this is the ultimate superhero suit upgrade. And what makes this one really special is that it's the first time we're really shown how much of a scientific genius Peter Parker is. Sure, his character is established on the basis that he's very smart and proficient in biology, but this invention basically allows him to be Spider-Man. Not only does he design the shooters themselves, but he creates the web fluid, which is arguably one of the most useful and durable materials in the world. This list features plenty of upgrades that take an already powerful suit and bring it to a new level, but this entry is an upgrade that turns a guy with superhuman strength and reflexes into, well, Spider-Man. We all know about this one, and it's almost seen as a given at this point, but it really deserves credit for what it really is and was at the time of its creation. A huge step into Spider-Man's career as a superhero. Alright, at number 1 we have the Batman Justice Buster upgrade, which ranks high on the list because once again, the word upgrade is a total understatement on this one. I break this one down in more depth than the top 10 Batman suits list, but basically, this suit is designed to take on the Justice League. So every element of this suit has some sort of benefit against each of the members of the Justice League, giving the mortal Bruce Wayne an unmatched advantage against any opponents, not just the Justice League. Considering the suit he dons before the Justice Buster is just his typical costume, having a mechanized suit that has processors that work faster than the Flash can move is a pretty big upgrade. And besides the many features specific for taking down the members of the Justice League, this suit just has huge defense stats and attack strength that would help Bruce in any combat situation.
Number 10, Superman. This version of Superman, the one in the Kingdom Come story by Mark Waid, with art by Alex Ross and Mike Carlin, is set in an alternate reality, Earth 22. Meaning, it isn't a baseline redesign for the character. For that matter, it isn't even a complete overhaul of Superman's costume. The only difference they made to the costume was that Clark's hair had silver streaks to show his age, and the yellow parts of his emblem were changed to black. Otherwise, his costume was a very classic Superman getup. But those two little changes, plus just the overall style of the art itself, did something to this Superman that for me, it just makes me tingle, you know? Number 9. Daredevil. When Daredevil first came out on the scene in 1964, his look was different from the one most readers are used to. Instead of his normal color scheme, Daredevil instead had a predominantly yellow suit, with only parts of the suit being the familiar red color. Now, in my humble opinion, the yellow and red suit has its own perks. The overall design of the suit is fairly similar to what would come later. But I will agree that when he showed up in Daredevil number 7 with the all-red suit, courtesy of artist Wally Wood, it was an instant stick. It was more in keeping with the darker, brooding, street-level nature of his stories. And it stuck for, well, pretty much the rest of his publication. Hey guys, before we go on, I just want to say a quick little thanks for watching. I also want to say thanks for those of you that leave comments below. I read a lot of them, and you guys always have interesting and helpful things to say. So thanks. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I won't forget to get on with this video. Number 8, the Punisher logo. Okay. I want to talk about this one for a couple of reasons, but let's just say it. Straight up, it's controversial, which always makes for a good discussion. Basically, the classic Punisher logo that has been around since the 70s got a bit of a redesign this year. Punisher has joined the Hand, and in doing so, he has changed his logo to resemble that of an Oni. There's also reason to believe that the symbol may reflect his status within the organization. Unfortunately, there is also a real-world political reason for the change. The logo itself was being adopted by real-world police officers, which is kind of odd considering Punisher is pretty anti-authority, and was even worn by some of those who were involved in the Capitol riots, leading Marvel to make a politically motivated change. Love it or hate it, it is the new look for the character right now. I'm not totally opposed to it, but I know at least a few of you guys out there are a little upset. Let me know what you think below. Number 7, X-Men. I don't know if you know what the original costumes of the X-Men looked like back in the day. Yellow and dark navy blue with yellow and black boots and gloves. Except for Beast, who is still vaguely human and didn't wear boots or gloves, and Iceman, who was more like snowman. The matching costumes definitely show that this was a team, even with their different and unique mutant abilities. There have been many iterations of X-Men costumes since, but for me, when the characters themselves got their own individual costumes in issue 39 of the comic, that's when they really came into their own. The leader of the team, Cyclops, has generally used this look and variations on this look ever since. Mostly. The other members took a bit more time to find iconic looks, namely Angel and Beast, who eventually got his blue fur. Number 6. Star-Lord. When Star-Lord showed up in Marvel Preview number 4, he was a far cry away from what most fans have come to recognize him as. I think he kinda looks a lot like Owlman from the Watchmen comics, to be honest, but even Peter's personality was much different. The tagline on the comic was, "He stalks the galaxy, one man on a mission of cosmic vengeance." That doesn't sound like the typical wisecracking, sarcastic young hero we know today. Even before Chris Pratt took on the character, Star-Lord was revamped in the 2006 and 2007 Annihilation event, where he formed the Guardians of the Galaxy and got an incredible new costume change, ditching the more cow-like headpiece for a full helmet and the skin-tight outfit for a more loose-fitting uniform. It just gives his character a much more distinctive look, in my opinion. Number 5. Green Lantern. Technically, this point can be argued with. This isn't so much a redesign as a wholly different character, but ask anyone who isn't deeply knowledgeable of the comics who the original Green Lantern is, and you're likely to hear them say Hal Jordan. Now, I'm just guessing here, but I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Hal Jordan's look, compared to the one of Alan Scott, it's just so much more iconic. Alan Scott sported a black cape with a red collared top, green pants, and a sweet normal looking belt. Sure, he is a different character and not technically an official Green Lantern, but when Hal Jordan came in with a green and black suit with hints of white, it just stuck. Let's just not talk about the movie version, okay? Number 4, Robin, Damian Wayne. We talked about Batman in the last video, so it's only fair we talk about his ward. Specifically, I want to talk about the costume of the newest Robin, and Batman's son, Damian Wayne. If we go back in time and look at the classic original Robin's costume, well, let's just say it kinda goes with the costume of the Caped Crusader at the time. In other words, it's incredibly impractical. I'm also thinking the bare legs wouldn't bode too well in the streets of Gotham, but that's just me. The costume was evolved over the years for sure, but the one that Damian wears when he appears as Robin in 2006, it's just like, ooh, I like it. You know, it's kind of hard to get specific on what makes this one so much better, I'll be honest. But if we just slap up some comparison pics, I mean, it's just better. Number 3, Ultimate's Hawkeye. The Ultimate Universe in Marvel sees a lot of changes to character designs that honestly kind of reflect the MCU looks just a little bit. Overall, I think the outfits are improvements on the originals. I want to give a big nod to Ultimate Thor. But I think the best of the character overhauls would have to be Hawkeye's Ultimate Universe costume. The black vest, the crew cut, and the red glasses make him look even more like a secret agent, which he is. It's also a bit edgier and darker than his 616 counterpart, which most of the Ultimates are, considering the comics were aimed at teens. Fight me in the comments, but I definitely prefer this costume. Number 2. Batgirl. Batgirl first appeared in Detective Comics 359, sporting an all-black costume with a yellow bat symbol, belt, boots, and gloves. Personally, I didn't have much of a problem with this look. I thought it was simple, for sure, and quite basic. Just like the other members of the Bat family, Barbara Gordon also got a ton of redesigns through the years. But in 2014, when she got a redesign thanks to artists Cameron Stewart, Brendan Fletcher, and Babs Tarr, the new look, much like Damian's Robin suit, just made more sense. The costume was much more practical. More of a jacket kind of design with a removable cape. The belt was more casual, more like a holster design. Her design had much more personality too, this way, which really works for the character herself, who also has a strong personality. Number 1. Nightwing. Nightwing first appeared after leaving the Bat family in Tales of the Teen Titans Volume 1, number 44, and his costume was, honestly, not too bad. It was goofy for sure. Don't get me started on the collar, but with those gold wing designs, it was pretty cool. I'd be a fool though if I didn't say that the blue V costume that debuted in 1996 is the best suit that character has ever worn, if we don't take into account his newest DC Rebirth suit, which is basically just a slightly updated version of this one. The simple blue bird across the chest and into the arms, mixed with the rest of the suit being black, yeah, it's a simpler look, but one that ultimately works better than any other.